Winter's over and spring is here, which means it's the growing season. So it's a perfect time to look at your lawn and see what you can do with it so you don't end up with something like this. It might be weeds, it might be bare patches, or you just want the greenest lawn in your suburb. We've got the tips for you. The two things that are going to damage your lawn the most over winter is heavy shade and compaction. Well, guess what? They've got both here. The sun in winter is very low in the sky, so this gets next to no light. And that little dog, it goes up and down here all day, every day. Best thing to do, get on the end of the fork and get some air into the soil. The holes mean that you get oxygen into the soil, which means you've got a healthier soil mix. It also means that when it rains, they can get water nice and deep, but they also drain quicker. Now, there's more than one way to skin this cat. If you've got the money and the time and the inclination, you can get rid of this lawn, improve the soil, and re-turf the whole thing. That's pretty expensive. Secondly, you can buy a couple of metres of turf like this. You can buy it at Bunnings these days and get the right turf for the conditions. This is a soft leaf buffalo that doesn't mind the shade. But if I laid it just over the existing soil, I've still got the same problem. So what I need to do is put it in place, cut that out, remove the soil, still improve the soil that's left. I'm putting down a bag of washed river sand and I'm going to mix it into the existing soil. That way you don't end up with just a thin layer of free draining soil, you end up with a good spade's depth worth. At the moment it looks like it's slightly high, but if I step on it you can see that it's got plenty of give in it. So when I water it at the end of the day, it'll sink down and be flush with the existing lawn. Now, the way they grow grass on turf farms is when they cut the grass out into slabs like that, they leave little ribbons like this in the ground. And over the next growing season, they spread out and that spreads out. It regrows and they reharvest and sell it to us again. The advantage is by chopping it all up, you end up with more edges. So you can set out a runner here, here, here and here and cover a huge space with just the 1 metre of turf. You just want to make sure you've got good contact with the soil, and by the time I top dress, they'll be nice and level. I use a washed river sand because I find it's got no clay in it and it helps that drainage. And I also use, on grass like this that needs a real kick along, something that's organic like Dynamic Lifter or Blood and Bone. I like to feed first and then cover it with the sand. Light, but often. Now, you might think if you're washing the sand away or it's disappearing when you give it a drink that you haven't put enough on. But that is the perfect amount because you're not covering the blade of grass, which means it can get all that sun that's pumping out in spring and it'll get established and recover quicker. But this is only half the job done. There's two things you need to do now. Keep the water up to it and mow it regularly as soon as it's established so it grows sideways rather than up. Out the front, it's a different story. The path is working really well, preventing any compaction, and there's no dog to be seen, so the lawn is green and lush. The only problem is, when you look at it closely, there's a lot of weeds. So to get rid of them, it's a two-prong attack. The first one, fertilise the lawn. Get it as happy and as strong and growing as fast as it possibly can. That way, when you attack the weeds, the grass is strong enough to be protected from any poison, it keeps growing, and you have bare patches for the least amount of time. Now, as for the weeds, I'll water this in, and in 7 days' time, I'll come back and attack them. Now everything's growing and happy, the weeds are going to absorb this herbicide a lot faster. And try not to get it on your plants. And it's a good idea to wash everything down once you're finished. Give the garden a drink. That way, what's killing the weeds isn't killing your garden. My #1 tip for lawns would be feed it, mow it and love it. You'll have a good looking lawn. If only it was that simple to do to me.